and that others identified as our leaders. And what we haven't done is to share with new generations sort of the themes and the tools that countless nameless people employ to get the kinds of wins. And you know, so when we talk about, for instance, you know, civil rights history, we talk about individual people as opposed to just, you know, the power of resistance, and how people whose names we will never know, you know, use the power of resistance to move us forward, and how, you know, so our people today, they're not going to be in the newspapers, and they're not going to get the, you know, NAACP Image Award, and, you know, but they can employ resistance every day, and but they feel like if they can't be Martin Luther King or Ella Baker or Rosa Parks, then, you know, they don't really have a role in this. And I think that we have to be very careful about how we share history with the generations, because they do kind of push back on that, and they don't see themselves in those roles. And I see it every day, you know, in my work as a pastor, of when you talk about what we have accomplished, and you don't focus on the charisma and the personality, people get it. They get it. They are in touch with, you know, our responsibility to resist oppression and to bring other people along, as long as they don't have to be Martin Luther King or, you know.
Thank you so much. Cheryl, did you want to comment?
Yes. My observations confirm what has already been said. When I first started the W.B. Du Bois Scholars Institute in 1988, the Institute was founded as a leadership development program, okay, because I felt at that time that as we moved forward, we were at the end of the civil rights era, that we would lead a different type of vision, a new type of vision in leadership. And I believed at that time that Du Bois' notion of the talented tent had never really been truly tested. And so Du Bois was founded with the idea of developing a cadre of leaders derived from brilliant minds. And one of the greatest challenges that confronted me when I put forth the curriculum in terms of what do you mean by leadership? What is central to developing leadership? Okay? I came to the conclusion that effective leadership requires individuals who feel good about themselves. And feeling good about yourself, a part of feeling good, and perhaps central to feeling good about yourself, is knowing yourself. And as such, it was natural then that the centerpiece of the curriculum would be African American history and cultural practices. In addition to that, a part of leadership is being able to care for other people, to define success in terms of the impact of your God-given talents on the lives of other people. Okay. And recognizing that we are in a society in which it promotes individualism, okay, rather than communalism, okay, that we needed a course that would help kids to understand that it is not your choice, it's your duty to give back. Okay, so we added ethics and self-development. Okay, the results have been, and that was 23 years ago. Okay, those courses are still core courses. Every student must take those courses. I believe, even though we are doing a variety of different things that potentially contributed to our success and effectiveness, I believe that those two courses have been central to the success that we have had, because not only do they advance knowledge, but they also change attitudes about self. So I just wanted to make that observation.
Anybody else before we move on to the next question? All right, I want to get this one in before the break. We're going to break it around 11:30, and as briefly as you can, respond to the following questions. Were you given the opportunity to recreate your educational experience, how would it be different, if at all? And what choices would you make that you failed to make while going through the educational experience? And I'm going to start with Fred, since we didn't give him an opportunity to chat in the last question.
Well, my educational experience, as I mentioned earlier, both my parents were educated. But as I mentioned earlier, both my parents were educated. So I had I think, a pretty good educational experience from a family perspective. I think as I look back over my personal experience in education, I would have explored many more different opportunities as to what I could have done in life. I think I would have paid closer attention in what I was doing. And I try to, as I talk with my daughters and other kids, try to say that, talk to them about, look at all the different opportunities that education can provide you. And I think that's probably what I would have just paid a little closer attention and explored many other different opportunities.
Okay. Cheryl?
Well, growing up in Wake Forest, North Carolina, in the 50s, okay, the options there weren't that many options in terms of education. We did not have a public library that we could attend. The only library that was available to us was the library in the school, and that was only open during the school hours. So if I could reconstruct my education in a way that it would be ideal to me today, I would certainly spend considerably more time in the library.
John?
I guess growing up in Jersey City in the 80s. But one thing I can say, as a product of Catholic school K-12, I guess one of my experiences, if I could go back, is that I wish my parents had enough confidence in the public school system that they didn't have to sacrifice so much of the pay from their 40-hour work week to ensure that I had a chance at being educated. So with that, I mean, if I could go back, I wish, because I think that would make life a little easier for them now, because they'd have a little more money saved up. But then also, I guess, I wish I had access to more. Even while I had parents that understood the value of education, they didn't necessarily have people who were telling them the types of things I needed to experience before I left from under their wing. And I wish that there were some people that would have told them the type of exposure that I could have potentially had, places I could have gone and experienced, that I'm committing to experiencing giving my sons those experiences, but I don't have them myself.
Good enough. Janine?
Yes, I think that, I read this question again last night, and I think it's an intriguing question, because there is one major thing that I would have changed with my educational experience. And it doesn't have to do with the actual arts and the sciences. What I have learned in life at 61, and I won't bore you with the details because I'm writing the book and you'll get a chance to actually read it. But most of my accomplishments in life came from trying to figure out how to move forward one more day when I was in a situation of an uncomfort zone. I learned more about myself. I learned more about success. I had to figure things out. And I think that if I had it to go back to school, what I would do differently, I would try to step out of that comfort zone more often. I didn't like math and science too much. So I just took the basic. I can't even remember if you told me your life depended on it right now. Figure out this algebra. Shoot me. I'm dead. I loved English. I was an English major. I played the piano for 12 years, had 8 recitals. I wish I had learned to play the flute and some of the other things that were not so traditional. I think that if I had it to do all over again, just looking at my life and the way it turned out, I would jump out of that comfort zone and I force my kids and my grandkids step out of the comfort zone, and I'm telling you, they have learned to do things that they would have never learned to do had I not forced them to do that.
Terrific. Evans?
Basically echoing and dittoing what Dr. Rue just stated, but two things come to mind. I wouldn't change any of the specific steps or educational stages or whatever, but there are two things that I would do differently if I had it to do again. I would be present for the experience. Every step of the way, I would be present for the experience. And I say that to you because I want parents to go away. If your child is in college, in addition to getting an A, and I've been there and I know that for the money you're paying, you want them to bring A's. But in addition to that, you need to set them free to really be present for this experience. They'll never have that opportunity again. So I would be present for the experience of that whole educational cycle. The other thing that I would do, I would put more energy into networking and relating to others. I mean, I had tunnel vision, number one. Coming into college, I knew what my parents, primarily my mother, was sacrificing for me to be there. So every time I went to class, it was really like, you know, do what you're supposed to do, get the best grades you can get. And I really didn't pay a lot of attention to other persons that were around me. And I almost said my sisters and my brothers because it sounds like it's preaching time. But the point I want to make is that when you look at successful people in the world, many of them will point back to relationships that were established, grade school, high school, college, etc. So two things, be more present and interact with others would be my change in dynamics.
Okay, thank you. Cecile?
Well, this is a hard question to answer, but I agree with the two previous speakers, but I would describe it for myself as being a little less responsible. I was really a good girl. Seriously, I was the first in both my families who went to college. I had parents who had really terrible childhoods, but were focused on education as the path. And I have tremendous respect. My dad is 92. He's miraculous. He's a lifelong learner. But I didn't learn that from him. What I learned from him was there was a path that I was on. And I did that. And I had a good experience and a good college experience. But I really didn't. And I think what helped me was reading. That kind of provided this other world of imagination and creativity that you've all talked about this morning. I really didn't kind of find me until I was an adult. I went to law school in my 30s after my kids were born. In fact, after my youngest daughter was born, my first year of law school. And I guess looking back, and this is what I've tried to do with my daughters, there are many paths. Mm-hmm. There's not one path that leads to the end. There are many paths. There are many approaches. There are many different ways to get to actually different goals, and learning itself is a goal. You know, my parents did a tremendous amount for my brother and I respect that, and actually they provided that foundation for me to discover those paths. I hope I help my daughters do that at an early age.
Terrific.